Welcome to Mimir Library, where timeless stories find their voice. This is Chapter 9 of Waves Between Us by Amir Honarmand. Enjoy!
The morning rush at Totley Mornings moved with its usual rhythm, but something fundamental had shifted. 2 days had passed since the waterfall, since the number 9 had fallen between them like a stone. 7 days left. Sunlight streamed through the windows, casting golden patterns across the wooden floor. The scent of fresh bread mingled with citrus peels and sea breeze, yet the cafe's usual morning playlist remained silent, leaving only the clatter of dishes and murmur of conversation to fill the space. "Order for table 6? Alara called, sliding a plate of spinach gosneme across the counter. Her smile appeared on cue, professional and pleasant, but stopped short of reaching her eyes. Across the room, Liam sat with his camera, reviewing photos. He'd arrived at his usual time, ordered his usual coffee, claimed his usual corner table. Everything was normal. Nothing was normal. Their eyes met briefly across the crowded space. Alara looked away first, reaching for more flour. Celine appeared at her side, head tilted curiously. "Did someone die? You've been making funeral face all morning." "I'm focused," Alara replied, kneading with unnecessary force. "Tuesday mornings are always busy." "Uh-huh." Celine's gaze darted between Alara and Liam. "And I'm secretly a princess. What happened at the waterfall?" Alara ignored the question, reaching for the container of Iran. "We're running low. Can you check if there's more in the back?" Celine lingered a moment longer before sighing dramatically and disappearing into the storage room. The bell above the door jingled as new customers entered, bringing with them laughter and the smell of salt air. Alara welcomed them automatically, her mind elsewhere as she poured Turkish coffee into small cups. Liam sat from his table, camera hanging from his neck, and approached the counter. He moved differently now, hesitant where he'd once been confident. "Need help with anything?" he asked, his voice deliberately casual. Alara glanced up, a beat too late. "No, I've got it under control." A delivery truck pulled up outside, horn beeping twice. The driver waved through the window. "I can help with that," Liam offered, already moving toward the door. "Thanks," Alara said, the word feeling stiff on her tongue. Outside, the driver unloaded wooden crates of vegetables and fruits. Liam hefted one, muscles flexing beneath his t-shirt as he carried it toward the kitchen entrance. The crate creaked under his grip. Alara met him at the door, reaching to take the delivery. Their fingers brushed, and she pulled back as if burned. A small, loaded silence stretched between them. "Everything okay?" Liam asked quietly, searching her face. Alara smiled faintly. "Just tired." She turned away before he could respond, carrying the crate inside. The weight of his gaze followed her, heavier than the vegetables in her arms. Back in the kitchen, she set down the crate with more force than necessary. 7 days. How could she endure 7 more days of this painful dance, this constant awareness of his presence, this countdown to absence? Through the service window, she watched him return for another crate. Sunlight caught in his hair, turning it gold at the edges. A regular customer stopped him, asking something that made him laugh. The sound carried across the cafe, achingly familiar. Celine appeared at her side, following her gaze. "You know, for 2 people who can't stop looking at each other, you're doing a terrible job of actually seeing each other." "It's complicated," Alara muttered. "Only because you're making it complicated." Celine handed her a fresh towel. "He's leaving, yes, but he's still here now." Outside, Liam set down another crate. He looked up, catching Alara watching him. Something vulnerable flickered across his face. A question, a hope, a fear, before he turned back to the delivery. 7 days. The number echoed in her mind as she turned back to her dough, hands working while her heart stood still. The cafe continued its morning dance, customers coming and going like waves against the shore, but its rhythm felt disrupted. Its heartbeat slightly out of sync, like music played in a minor key, beautiful still, but tinged with melancholy. The midday calmness descended on Tatley mornings like a welcome exhale. The breakfast rush had subsided, leaving behind empty plates and the lingering scent of spices and butter. The afternoon crowd wouldn't arrive for another hour. Alara wiped down the counter, gathering crumbs into her palm. She glanced at the clock. 6 days remained. The countdown ticked relentlessly in her mind. "Need help with the storage room?" Liam appeared beside her, sleeves already rolled up. The morning's awkwardness still hung between them, but his eyes held a determined warmth. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Together, they moved to the small storeroom at the back of the cafe, a musty space filled with shelves of spices, flour, and tea. The scents of cardamom and thyme hung in the air, mingling with the earthiness of the wooden shelves. "These need reorganizing," Alara said, gesturing to a row of glass jars. The deliveries got mixed up. They worked in silence, shoulders occasionally brushing in the narrow space. A light bulb flickered overhead, casting uneven shadows across their faces. Outside, the wind rattled the cafe shutters, a gentle rhythm to their movements. Liam reached for a jar of sumac, his arm extending past her. "This one goes with the spices?" "Yes, top shelf." Their fingers brushed during the handoff, a momentary connection that sent warmth up her arm. The wooden shelf wobbled slightly as he placed the jar. "Careful, that one's been unstable for months. Meat keeps promising to fix it." "I could take a look at it. Wouldn't want an avalanche of spices burying you alive." A smile tugged at her lips despite herself. "My tragic end, drowned in cardamom." The moment felt normal, easy, like before the waterfall, before 9 days. Liam's gaze drifted to the wall behind her, where a large, colorful map of Turkey hung, pins marking various locations. He stepped closer, studying it. "This is beautiful," he said, fingers hovering over the illustrated mountains of Cappadocia. "I've always wanted to see those rock formations." Alara nodded. "The fairy chimneys. They're magical at sunrise." "I'd love to see Cappadocia next time I'm here," he said, his voice light with possibility. "Maybe we could go together." The words hung in the musty air. Next time. As if it was certain, as if this wasn't ending in less than a week. Something shifted in Alara's chest, a tightening, a defense mechanism engaging. "This is my life. Sorry, there might not be a next time, Liam." Her voice came out sharper than intended. He turned, confusion clouding his face. "I didn't mean it like that." "Like what?" The words kept coming, pushed by a fear she couldn't contain. "Like this is just another place you'll circle on a map and revisit someday? Like I'm just another interesting local you'll remember fondly?" The flickering bulb cast strange shadows across his face. His brow furrowed. "That's not fair," he said quietly. "You know that's not how I see you." Alara stepped back, regret washing over her, even as the words left her mouth. She hadn't meant to attack him, but the casual way he'd spoken of next time, as if it were a tourist's dream rather than a real promise, had pierced something vulnerable inside her. "This is my life," she said softly, gesturing to the storeroom, the cafe beyond. "Not a stopover." His face softened. He reached for her hand but stopped short, letting his arm fall back to his side. "I know," he said after a pause. The simple acknowledgement hung between them. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the shutters more insistently. The bulb flickered again, threatening to plunge them into darkness. They stood facing each other in the small space, surrounded by the ingredients that made up her daily life, the spices, the flour, the tea leaves, the elements of permanence, of staying. In his eyes, she saw not anger at her outburst, but something more complicated. A reflection of her own fear, perhaps? Or maybe something deeper, the first real uncertainty she'd seen in him since they met. The deck of Tatli mornings gleamed in the evening light, freshly swept and empty of customers. Alara moved delicately across the wooden planks, broom in hand, each stroke collecting the day's debris, fallen crumbs, stray napkins, sand tracked in from the beach. The sun hung low over the Mediterranean, painting everything in amber and rose. Despite the golden hour's beauty, a heaviness lingered in the air. Liam sat at the corner table, the last patron of the day, quietly packing his camera equipment. The metallic snaps of fastener shutting broke the quiet that hung between them. Neither had mentioned their earlier conversation in the storeroom. Alara swept the last pile of sand off the edge of the deck, watching it scatter onto the beach below. The broom's bristles scraped against wood, with a sound that seemed unnaturally loud in the quiet. Liam rose from his seat, camera bag slung over his shoulder. He approached her, stopping a few feet away. "Need any help closing up?" His voice was carefully neutral. "Just finishing the sweep." Alara leaned the broom against the railing. "Thanks, though." They stood in silence as the sun inched closer to the horizon. A napkin fluttered across the deck, caught in a sudden breeze. They both reached for it simultaneously, fingers brushing. The contact lingered a moment longer than necessary before Alara pulled away, crumpling the napkin in her fist. "Mrs. Yilmaz loved your photos of her grandchildren today," she said, moving to collect empty tea glasses from a nearby table. The delicate glass clinked as she stacked them. "She asked if you could email copies to her." "Of course. They were great kids." Liam smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "The little boy reminded me of my nephew." "I didn't know you had a nephew." "Two, actually. My sister's boys. The older one just started school this year." Another piece of him revealed, another attachment to a life happening elsewhere. Alara placed the glasses on her tray, focusing on the task to hide the sensation in her chest. "The figs were perfect today," Liam continued, watching her movements. "I've never had them that fresh before." "They're from old Ahmet's farm. His trees produce the sweetest fruit in the region." The conversation drifted into safe territory, customers, food, weather, while the real words remained unspoken between them. From a neighboring house, melancholy trickish music drifted through open windows, a woman's voice singing of separation and longing. The sky deepened to indigo at its edges. Stars appeared one by one, pinpricks of light against the darkening canvas. Alara switched on the string lights that bordered the deck, bathing them in a soft, golden glow. Liam checked his watch. "I should let you get home." She nodded, not meeting his eyes. "It's been a long day." He took a step toward the stairs, then paused. "Alara, about earlier." "It's fine," she interrupted, not wanting to revisit the storeroom conversation. "We were both tired." "Right." He shifted the weight of his camera bag. "Tired." The string lights swayed gently in the evening breeze, casting moving shadows across his face. In the distance, waves broke against the shore in a steady rhythm that felt like a countdown. Alara asked, the question slipping out before she could stop it. "I'll see you tomorrow?" Liam looked at her, something vulnerable flickering across his features. "Of course." But it sounded like a question, hanging between them with all the weight of uncertainty. The space between them stretched, filled with all they weren't saying. He nodded once, then turned and descended the wooden steps to the beach. Alara watched his silhouette grow smaller against the darkening horizon, the distance between them expanding with each step. The music from the neighbor's house swelled, the singer's voice carrying notes of bittersweet longing across the cooling night air. Alara stood alone on the deck, surrounded by empty tables and the remnants of the day, wondering how something that hadn't even fully begun could already feel like it was ending.
The story ends here. but the library is always open. Subscribe for more free audiobooks.